What are you doing in my closet, where I record my videos? You have a question, you say. What is that? Oh, what I learned in my study? Well, I'd be happy to tell you about it. First, if you read through my literature review, you'll find that mostly what I've gathered is negative information concerning my topic. Of course, my topic being the use of cell phones in school. But since you're asking, you probably already knew that. Here's what I found, essentially. Cell phones are being used in school, whether we want them to be or not. Areas that have banned them entirely have seen, in some studies, jumps in performance, and in other studies, no measurable difference. Sounds conclusive, eh? So essentially what I found when you look at the whole thing altogether is that there's kind of mixed messaging going on with cell phones, but overall, the majority of studies are looking at the negative effects of those cell phones, especially in the classroom here. We're talking on that limited scale. And something else that I found is that when it comes to things that, say, an administrator could use as backup research for determining what their policy is going to be in their school, there's not a whole lot. Basically, it's either you allow cell phones or you don't, or people focus on one-to-one and just kind of ignore cell phones almost in their entirety and say, well, you have to have an iPad or a computer or something like that. So essentially, what I learned through my study was that there is a hole in the research that is the size of good policies to deal with cell phones since they're going to be here anyway. And that is where I ended up taking my idea for a pilot study and things like that. So hopefully, that answers your question about what I learned through my study. If you want more information, feel free to let me know and I'll give you the entire literature review. It's very exciting. I gotta go hang my stuff up now.
Why? Why are you in here? Fine. I mean, if you really want to know what I learned from my pilot study, I can tell you, but of all places, man. Well, I'd say that the real big takeaway from the pilot study for me was that I've just got to do the interviews in person. Because if I do them as I did, kind of survey, open-ended survey form, like I did with my principal, because we've loosened some of our cell phone rules, I don't really get the answers I'm looking for, so I don't get the information that I can actually use to help answer my research question. I just kind of end up with a smattering of things that are in much shorter form than I want them to be. And I know from interviewing this particular principal for other classes and other topics that he can really give some in-depth detail, but he didn't on this because it was a survey, and so he just answered quick couple-sentence answers and moved on. So I would say that's the biggest thing that I learned from my pilot study is to correctly answer this, I just need to do it as a survey. I mean, an interview. That's what I meant to say. Now, I'm sorry, but these clothes are still wet, so I guess you can stay in here if you want to.
Gosh. Dude, why? Oh, you're just trying to cool off from the dryer. It was your fault. You chose to be in there. Oh, you say last question? Okay, if this is the last question, I'll answer it. Then you need to quit creeping around my house. I don't even know how you fit in these places. Well, if I had to answer what I learned about myself as a researcher, I would say I far prefer the human interaction side of researching. I like having conversations with people. I like, people watching and writing things down. I don't really like reading through massive stacks of information and data. It's just not anywhere near as interesting to me to find out the things that I want to know. So if I had to say the overarching, what I learned about myself as a researcher is that I tend to research or enjoy the portion of research that has to do with interacting with people, and don't near as much enjoy the portion of research that involves stacks and stacks of paper and APA formatting. No offense to whoever came up with APA formatting, but it's just easier to talk to people than to type it out in all those very detailed ways. I would say, kind of answering the second part of what you just asked here is the hardest part of all of this for me was APA formatting. Thankfully, I have a wife who is really good at APA formatting, and so she would proofread everything and make sure, show me all the ways that I screwed up. But still, APA, just the minutia detail, I enjoy a kind of more free-flowing writing style, I guess. And so that was difficult, making sure everything fit inside those parameters. Anything that surprised me? I guess one thing that kind of surprised me is just about anything that I looked up, there would be two studies that seemed to say exact opposite things that were both peer-reviewed, well-researched studies. And so it was a little bit shocking to me that, that exists. There's a lot of, this thing versus this thing. They seem to be completely opposed, and yet both of them are peer-reviewed studies that are out there to be read and looked at. I guess that kind of shocked me a little bit about the thing in general. But overall, I would say that I enjoy research as long as it's interactive. I enjoy the learning that I get from the kind of bookwork side of research, but I'm just not as much of a detail-oriented fellow, and so it's not the part that I enjoy as much. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and warn you, when I shut this door, it's just going to keep getting colder, so you might want to go on somewhere. Also, highly recommend the Meat Shop Bacon in Dexter. Delicious bacon. Tastier cooked, though, so have fun in here. Oh, that's it. I'm calling the police.